Hello, good day everyone. I am Jacqueline R. Hello, good day everyone. I am Jacqueline R. Sereno and I will be going to report the topic that is entitled Describing Grammar Test Task. So, now let's define what is describing grammar test task to this lesson. Describing grammar test tasks evaluate performance with regard to the criteria for correctness. The testing of grammar is one of the mainstays of language testing. So while such tests test the ability to either recognize or produce correct grammar and usage, they do not test the ability to use the language to express meaning. So while the learners is doing the task, they only focuses on the correct grammar and usage instead of the uh, meaning of the language itself. So since we are describing the grammar is defined as tested directly or indirectly in all tests of a learner's language ability. So this interest stems from the importance of grammar as a fundamental linguistic resource of communication. So we all know that grammar is a set of rules. So that is very important in order for us to have an effective communication. And this communication test our ability to predict communicative language ability. So grammar is very important in communication. So we have to classify tasks according to scoring procedure. So the first one is the objective test task. So these are those in which no expert judgment is required to evaluate performance with regard to the criteria for correctness. So the example given here is true or false task. So that is very common task that we encounter. So aside from that, objective test task is from the word itself, objective. It is means that making an unbiased, a balanced observation based on facts or evidence which can be verified. So there is complexity based upon the characteristics of the task itself. So the learners have the what we call by that the basis in order for them to answer the certain question that is given. So the opposite of objective test task is the subjective test task. So are those that require expert judgment to interpret and evaluate performance with regard to the criteria for correctness. So given that the main goal of a task is to elicit performance. So subjective, on the other hand, means making assumptions. So it allows for feelings, opinions, or even perspectives based on emotion of an individual. So there is complexity based on the mental experience of the learners. So subjective test task is opposite to the objective test task. So that would be the main idea that we are going to identify of the two. So that would be the classified task according to scoring procedure. So now let's have the classroom-based assessment task. The first one, or the common task that we encountered, especially when we are having our examination, the multiple choice task. So the most common selected response task presents a blank or underlined words in a sentence, and the test taker must choose the correct response. from the options that are given. So we all know already about that. Or the grammatical form, grammatical meaning, grammatical form, for, and meaning. So here is to give an example. Because my cousin was sick, I blanked to buy medicine last week. So there is the option given. First one, had. Letter B, have. C, has. D, hadn't. So the learners or the taker will be going to choose the right answer. So multiple choice task is the common selected response task presents. So there are some tasks na kanang walay fill in the blank. There is a question lang, there is kanang phrase lang, and then the most important is naasiyay choices na mapilian sa mga learners or takers. The second one is the matching task. This task presents input in the form of two lists of words, phrases, or sentences. One list can also be in the form of visual cues. Examiners match one list with the other. So to avoid guessing, one list has one or more extra distractors. So let's have the example. Match column A with the correct answer and column B. Write only the letter of the answer before the number. So the learners or the takers must choose the given option. Magellan, and then they were going to choose Mabini, Rizal, Lapu-Lapu, Aguinaldo, and then there is already they were going to choose the right or the correct answer. So the takers or learners must follow the instruction before taking the test. So that is the example of the matching task. So the third one is the gap filling task. This task presents input in the form of a sentence, passage, or dialogue with a number of words deleted. The gaps are specifically selected to test one or more areas of grammatical knowledge. So examinees are required to fill the gap with an appropriate response for the context. Gap filling tasks are designed to measure the learner's knowledge of grammatical forms and meanings. So it means there is a gap or the problem that the learners will going to answer, or will going to provide the right or specific words or passage in order for the task to be completed. So there is a short answer task. This task presents input in the form of a question, incomplete sentence, or some visual stimulus. So test takers are expected to produce responses that range in length from a word to a sentence or two. So for example, what is the name of my discovered penicillin? So the answer would be Alexander Fleming. So this is the short answer, or the what we call by that identification that will going to identification task presents input the form questions. So that is very common, especially in the college students like us. So there are some students prefer to have a identification rather than enumeration, because there is the specific or exact answer that will going to study of some learners. So The next one is the information gap task, infogap, or the infogap. This task presents input in the form of two or more sets of partially or incomplete information. So the learners were going to complete the text. The next one is storytelling and reporting tasks. These tasks present test takers with prompts that require them to see information from their own experience or imagination to tell a story or report information. So this task can be used to measure the test taker's ability to use grammatical forms that convey several meanings, both literal and implied. So storytelling and reporting task uh, would be helpful, especially to the elementary students, because they need to have a complete information in order for them to understand the story that is given. Reporting task is also helpful because we can express our opinions, especially when we are assigned to do it. So reporting task, this is usually do in high school students and college students, because kung ano siya kanang more on real world, kung ano good siya kaning performance. The next one is the role play and simulation task. So this is considered as the authentic task because it is have the application of what are the students learned from the lesson. So the input presents test takers with a language or non-language prompt that asks them to take on a role or stimulate a situation, to solve a problem, make decision, or perform some transaction collaboratively. So role play, simulation task is groupings yun siya kay you cannot have usually, or groupings yun siya because it has a collaboration, participation of a member in order to have a performance or to stimulate a situation or to solve a problem that is given. And then since we have the topic that is focuses on grammatical, so it also identify the importance of the meaning, the programmatic use, and the grammatical form in the certain task, which is the role play and simulation. So I think that would be all my report, and I hope you guys and girls have learnings and listen carefully to my report. So that would be all. Thank you for listening.